सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ब्रह्मणः जगत्कारणत्व व्यवहारः. Man thinks of the truth as Jagat Karanam. The thinking, whether Shastra thinks or man thinks, that is called Vyavahara. How we think is Vyavahara. And what is the Paramartha. I think that the earth is flat. That is called Vyavahara. But the earth is round. That is the actuality. The actuality is, the interpretation is thought. I am using a wrong word, interpretation. All interpretations are subjective. But here it is an interpretation in ignorance. Or we can say what is Paramartha, and how it looks, how it is perceived, how it is thought, and how it is interpreted. And when Shastra thinks correctly, it is also Shastra Vyavahara. Shastra does the Vyavahara to correct man's thinking. Shastra's thinking is to correct man's thinking. Having corrected man's thinking, Shastra's thinking also resolves. Because Shastra needs to think correctly. Shastra needs to think correctly because man thinks wrongly about himself. And Shastra thinks rightly about man and conveys to him. And when he thinks wrongly, as long as he thinks wrongly, there is Shastram to think rightly and correct it. And once the wrong thinking is corrected, the right thinking also resolves. It resolves. Wrong thinking gets corrected. Right thinking resolves, leaving behind only the truth. Right thinking ceases to be thinking. There is only right thinking corrects the wrong thinking. Then there is no thinking, there is only being. Therefore, all the right thinking presupposes wrong thinking. In other words, all thinking presupposes wrong thinking about the truth. All thinking presupposes wrong thinking about the truth. Or all thinking presupposes the wrong thinking about the truth, about oneself. And Shastra does the right thinking to correct that wrong thinking. And that right thinking means, hey, what you think is wrong about yourself. And it proves, it points out how he is wrong. So in that manner, Shastra becomes the right thinking, man's thinking becomes wrong thinking about the truth. This is called Vyavahara. Man's thinking about himself, the truth is Avidyaka Vyavahara. Avidyaka Vyavahara means thinking in ignorance, under the spell of ignorance, influenced by a state of ignorance. The error is always under the spell of ignorance of a fact. Error means erroneous thinking. Whereas Shastra comes and corrects that wrong. So man's thinking is called avidyaka vyavahara. Shastra's thinking is called shastriya vyavahara. But both are vyavahara. Whereas the truth's existence is free from right thinking about it or wrong thinking. The wrong thinking doesn't qualify the truth, and the right thinking also doesn't. Right thinking as thinking doesn't qualify the truth. Truth is unqualified. The noise doesn't take you to sleep, and the lullaby takes you to sleep, but inside the sleep there is neither market noise, the disturbing noise, and softening sound than the lullaby. So lullaby is like the Shastra Vyavahara, and market noise is the Avidyaka Vyavahara. The lullaby drowns the outside noise, and the lullaby takes you to sleep. When the lullaby takes you to sleep, inside the sleep there is neither lullaby nor market noise, outside noise. There is neither noise nor music. Let us say, lullaby is music. Noise is noise. Therefore, in order to be free from the noise, you hear the music and you fall asleep. In that sleep, there is neither noise nor spoken music. There is peace. And peace is not sung. Peace is. Peace is. You don't sing peace. You can sing peacefully for someone to become peaceful, to quieten his mind. But the result, and then when the mind becomes quiet, he stays peaceful. That peacefulness of one's being is not a spoken music. It's not spoken, it is. It is the truth. Peace is another word for the reality that is. Because even if a Shastra promises, you are full, what will I do by being just full? I want to be peaceful. Oh, you are unlimited. What will I do by being unlimited? I have no desire to be unlimited. I want to be peaceful. And therefore, unlimitedness, fullness, peacefulness are synonyms. Eternity and peacefulness are one and the same. Unlimitedness and peacefulness are one and the same. Therefore, even if it says you are Brahman, what do I do by being Brahman? So Brahman has to be understood here. That's why you have to be very, very... What should I say? Should I say that? You will curse me. You should be smart enough to think. What do I do by being Brahman? Then the Shastra says, my dear, Brahmatva means being peaceful. That is known to me. I want to be peaceful. I want to be peaceful. The love is only to be peaceful. There is no love to be unlimited. The love to be full. But it's one and the same. You see, even supposing I am very, very peaceful, choicelessly peaceful, then even the desire resolves in the peace. When a person is absolutely peaceful, in that, like in the deep sleep state where the peace is absolute, the desire is impossible. In the state of absolute serenity, desire is impossible. Because in the realm of serenity, there is no individuality. Individuality is a thought. And absolute serenity is free from individual, where the thought is impossible. When the thought itself is impossible, your desire also is impossible. It's neither It's neither possible nor necessary. When you are already peaceful, why do you want to have a desire? It's not possible. In fact, what we don't absolutely, this is another big point, for you to think. Whatever is absolutely non-essential is also impossible. The impossibles and absolute non-essentials are common, are the same. In the realm of the truth, desire is not possible, desire is also not necessary. Desire is not possible, desire is also not necessary. When you have eaten full, brimful, it's almost coming up to the neck, like Rishikesh Bandara, Rishikesh Bandara. Kheer and Malpuda. Malpuda is a South Indian atirasam, garam atirasam. And kheer, and dono mila dete hain, and lap it up. And then it is right touching almost here. One cough is enough. It's all problems. And he goes to the doctor and says, Doctor Sahab, मैं तो बहुत दुखी हूँ क्योंकि बहुत हेवी हूँ, क्या करूँ? So ये टैबलेट ले लो. And he says, अगर टैबलेट के लिए अगर जगह होता, मैं और एक मालपुड़ा खा लेता. मैं और एक मालपुड़ा खा लेता. Now when a person is full, coming back to the topic, more is neither necessary nor possible. Yes. The more, when you are full, more is neither necessary nor possible. Where the more is impossible and unnecessary, the desire for it also is not there. It's not possible. That's why the truth, there is no vyavahara. Thinking doesn't exist in the being. Thinking appears in the being, but it doesn't qualify the being. When we say that thinking doesn't exist in the being, please don't imagine that it is taking place somewhere else. No, it takes place in the truth without qualifying the truth. Like mirage water is seen in the sand, but the mirage water doesn't wet the sand. Mirage water doesn't wet the sand. But mirage does take place. Take place means I come to see it. It doesn't take place, I see it. That's called an error. Snake doesn't take place, I see it. I see it. I see a mirage. Similarly, individuality doesn't take place in the truth. Embodiment doesn't take place in the truth. Embodiment is seen. And what can be seen wrongly can be seen rightly. That is called Vedanta. What can be seen wrongly, what is seen wrongly can be seen rightly. That's called education. In ignorance I see it wrongly. Through education I come to see it rightly. Therefore, human mind is floating in the truth without qualifying the truth. Human mind is rooted in the truth. Human embodiment is perceived in the truth, but it doesn't qualify the truth. It is almost like a summary of Vedanta. One state is a Mahavak. Like the universe is seen in the truth, but the universe doesn't qualify the truth. Qualify means it doesn't become the quality, a property, an attribute of the truth. Just as greenness is an attribute of a tree, in that manner, the universe is not an attribute of it. What we see is not an attribute of our being. What we see in our being, but it doesn't qualify our being. This is called the Vyavahara. All perceptions are Vyavahara. All education is Vyavahara. All stupidities are Vyavahara. But what is serenity. I mean, if you can follow this example, we have variety of sounds, but they all take place in silence, but they don't qualify silence. Yes. One of the most touching examples in my thinking, the most easy to understand. You can straight away convince a man if he is intelligent. Otherwise, it's very difficult to talk to a person Vedanta. Because sound cannot take place. You can't make a sound in form. You can't make a sound in taste and touch and smell. Sound is made in the realm of silence. But the sound doesn't replace the silence. It takes place in silence. It is my thinking that the sound replaces silence. No. The sound takes place in silence. And silence is one's own being. The one who hears the sound is the silence. The one who hears the sound is silence. The one who sees the form is formless. The one who thinks is thought-free. In the medium of one's own existence, the silence, the sound is made and heard and resolved. And it doesn't qualify silence. In ignorance, we think the sound qualifies, the sound replaces silence. Just as the wave doesn't replace water, the wave takes place in water. Ab dekhiye. So now the headline is this, capture it. Brahmanaha jagat karanatva vyavahara. The Shastra says within the vyavahara, there is a teaching vyavahara. How man thinks independent of teaching is called avidyaka vyavahara. To correct that wrong thinking of man, Shastra thinks, makes you think rightly, and that is called Shastra vyavahara. Shastra vyavahara corrects man's jiva's vyavahara. Shastra vyavahara corrects the jiva's vyavahara. And inside the truth, there is neither avidyaka vyavahara nor Shastra vyavahara. There is only ease, presence. Brahmanaha kotastha nitya chaitanya swarupasya. Brahmanaha, what is Brahma? Kotastha. It is firm, it doesn't move. That is the connotation of kotastha. It doesn't move, it is akarta. Our existence doesn't move. The seer of the movement doesn't move. You don't need anything else to understand this. The one who sees the motion, the one who sees the movement doesn't move. If he also moves with the movement, he cannot register the movement. You have to be stable. You have to be constant. You have to be not moving. You have to be to register the movement. And the one who registers the movement of the body, the one who registers, sees the movement of the mind, the one who sees the movement of everything around, doesn't move. That is called akarta technically. Akarta. Akartritvam is called kutasthatvam. Akartritvam is called kutasthatvam. Brahmanaha kutastha nitya. Anything that is kutastha, the unmoving, is eternal. Why? Because it doesn't come in the realm of the change. The one who sees the change is not qualified by the change. Straight away, the eternal is right there illumining the change, non-eternity. The non-eternal doesn't register the non-eternity. The non-eternal doesn't register the non-eternity. It is the eternal that registers the eternity. Meaning, in the light of the eternal, the non-eternity of the non-eternal is known. Therefore, between the eternal and the non-eternal, there is no spatial gap. They are unlike each other, but not spatial gap. There is no division. There is distinction, not division. You understand the meaning of these two words? Distinction means they are unlike each other. Hadi, they are unlike each other. They are unlike each other. The eternal and the non-eternal is unlike each other, but they are not away from each other. Then, like wave and water are unlike each other, but they are not away from each other. It's oneness. So between the non-eternal and the eternal, there is oneness. Advaita. One is the truth, the other is a perception. One is what is, the other is perception, thinking. One is the sand, the other is a mirage. The non-eternal is a mirage. The eternal is the truth. And therefore, anything that is kutastha, if change doesn't qualify the self, the seer, if the change doesn't qualify the seer of the change, then the seer is straight away eternal. Therefore, our eternity is obvious but ununderstood. Our eternity is obvious, ununderstood. Because when I equate myself with the body, then I conclude that I am non-eternal. But the reasoning tells, Shastra tells, Shastra is supported by reasoning. Shastra doesn't support reasoning. Reasoning supports Shastra. Shastra is the pramana. Whereas Sankhya says, we use the reasoning, your Shastra also supports our reasoning. No. Shastra says and the reasoning supports it. इसमें बहुत फर्क है. इसमें बहुत फर्क है. Yukti supports the Shastra. Anubhava supports the Shastra. Our own Anubhava, that it is my knowledge that I see the change, that is called Anubhava. It is my knowledge, it is my experience, it is my experience that I see the change. And it is my experience that the change doesn't qualify me. And the reason also tells, if the change qualifies the seer, then the seer cannot see the change. And therefore, Shastra is supported by Yukti. Shastra is also supported by Anubhava. Anubhava is pointed out by the Shruti. Anubhava is not supported by the Shruti. Shastra points out the Anubhava. Shastra makes a statement of fact about us. Hey, thou art a non-physical, eternal being. You are a non-dual being. And it goes about unfolding it with the help of logic and Anubhava, etc. Therefore, we take the help of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. We don't abandon reasoning. Reasoning is meant to help us understand not only an object but also the subject. How can you abandon, if you abandon logic, then you go by illogicality. If you are not logical, then you tend to become illogical. Therefore it is better to be logical. We are told to be logical so that we are not illogical. Because ye to jaruri hai. If you are not logical, you will be illogical. If you are not eating the right food, then what will you be doing? Because we don't have in-between food, neither right food nor wrong food. What is that in-between food, Ji? Do you have any in-between food? That's why, if you are doing the right thing, then you avoid the wrong. That's why preoccupation with the right, being occupied with the right is necessary to avoid the wrong. Otherwise, an empty mind becomes nobody. There is no proverb in English. An empty mind is a divine workshop. Is there a proverb? An empty mind is God's workshop. Does anybody say that? No. An empty mind is never a God's workshop. It's a devil's workshop. Yes. And therefore, when you are not logical, you will become illogical. Therefore, logic is a part. Shruti uses logic to convey itself. ये बात समझ लीजिए. Shruti uses logic to make what it says intelligible, to explain what it says. Similarly, Shruti uses universal experience, not one individual, one subjective experience. Universal experience is cited by the Shruti to convey what it wants to convey. Therefore, Kutastha Nitya. Chaitanya, we are Kutastha, we are Nitya. By dint of being Kutastha, we are Nitya. We are Nitya and we are Chaitanya. We are being conscious. My being conscious, my being unqualified by what I see, and my being not moving, is all the same thing. My being it. When I am changeless, I am timeless also, Ji. Because the seer of time is not qualified by time. The seer of change is not qualified by change. Obvious. Swarupasya, even though Brahman is Kutastham, Brahman is Nityam, Brahman is Chaitanyam, Brahman is non-dual, yet the Shruti points out, it does the Vyavahara, because man thinks that that Brahman is seen as the body. Who is seen as the body? It is this Brahman. The truth is seen as the form. Therefore, don't say, I am only a housewife, I am only a small man. This is all wrong thinking. Because every living being, every conscious being is the truth as a man is man. Truth as a mosquito is mosquito. Truth as amoeba is amoeba. Truth as a bird is a bird. There is nothing else. Water as wave is a wave. Water as a bubble is bubble. Water as froth is froth. There is nothing else there. Therefore, when man thinks that I am a form, Shruti comes and says, that is the answer. Hey, you are not the form, you are Brahman. Tatu Tvamasi, thou art at once. The Kutastha, Nitya, Chaitanya and non-dual. And later it teaches, what is the explanation of Jagat? We are at once the source of everything. Because the fact is the source of the mirage. Sand is the fact behind the mirage. Sarvasyapi atmatvena avasthitatvat. What a wonderful statement. The same Brahman stands as every living being. It is the Brahman that is seen as Mr. So-and-so. It is the truth that is seen as Mr. So-and-so. Sarvasyapi sabka atmatvena as the actuality avasthitatvat. It is there. Truth is there as the actuality of every living being. This is a very important way. Truth is there as the swarupa, actuality of every living being. Therefore, when you analyze an individual, when a conscious individual, even a bird, when you analyze it, it boils down to be the truth. Like when you analyze the wave, it boils down to be water. But that analysis is done by the Shruti. I am only saying analyze because that's a right way of closely looked at. A bird closely looked at is a silent truth. A cow closely looked at. Don't go too close to it in order to take a close look at it. In order to take a close look at the cow, don't go too close to it. That will become a problem. Keep a distance and take a close look at it. Think closely. It is nothing but a silent truth. But you take a close look. Before you take a close look at the cow, etc., it is necessary to take a close look at yourself. Charity begins at home. Yes. You take a close look at yourself. You find you are nothing but a silent truth. And from that point of view, there is no cow, there is no bird, there is no universe also. And therefore, and even if they are there, they are appearances. Sarvasyapi atmatvena avasthitatvat chidatma vyatirekena, as separate from the chidatma, the conscious being. Chidatma vyatirekena anatmanaha, this non-self, swatantrena, independently, sthitehe. The universe, the existence of the inert, independent of the seeing conscious being, Chintayitum api ashakyatvacha, it is difficult to even imagine. You can't do the kalpana that an object can exist unrelated to the subject. Because the only proof of an object is that I see it. That seer is the proof. That I see. The seer is the proof. So independent of the seer, the seen cannot be even thought to exist. The seer's sight is the proof. Therefore, independent of the Chidatma, the truth, either you say independent of the conscious being, an object cannot exist independent of the conscious being. You can also say an object cannot exist unrelated to the individual. One is a correlation, the other is ananyatva. Correlation means every object stands related to me as a physiological individual. Meaning I am a conscious individual with a sense of embodiment. If you take into account embodiment, the object is correlated to me. The object, because me as an embodied individual cannot exist unrelated to the universe. And the universe cannot exist unrelated to The individual, this mutual relation is what is called correlation. Correlation is a very big breakthrough in Vedanta, because creation is nothing but a correlation. Gauna ekatva. Correlation means ice can't exist without forms. In the creation, God would not have created the form without creating ice. Therefore, between the ice and the forms there is a correlation. Between the ears and the sounds there is a correlation. Between the individual and the universe there is a correlation. And all correlations are really brought under one correlation, the master correlation, called Abhidhana, Abhidheya correlation. The language and the describable and the describing language. The word and its meaning. Shabda prapancha and artha prapancha. Shabda and artha. The language and the creation. So the language stands correlated to the creation, because the creation is available for description in language. Anything that is available for description in language is called Abhidheyam, and the language is called Abhidhanam. So unless there is something to be described in language, there cannot be any language, and then the language cannot exist without the Abhidheyam. That the description cannot exist without the described, and the described cannot exist without being available for description. Therefore, Abhidhana and Abhidheya are correlated. Therefore, creation is more in the form of a correlation called Dvaitam. Creation is not a pile of things. What did I say? Correlation is not a pile of things. It's not a pile. P-I-L-E. Pile of things. It's not a pile of things. Even though we all think creation is a pile of things. No, it is a correlation. Seer-seen relationship was. This is seer-seen relationship. That relationship is called correlation. Jiva Jagat. Seer seen, hearer heard, taster tasted, toucher touched, smeller smelt, thinker thought, language and the creation. Even God as the source of the creation is available, comes under the Abhidheyam, the language. Because he is also describable as the source. The moment you use the word source, it is Abhidheyam. It falls within the realm of the describable. All that is describable, for description in the language you require 4 factors, you know it. Jati, Guna, Kriya, Sambandha. Where these 4 are not there, language is handicapped. Therefore, the universe stands correlated to me as an individual. The universe is non-separate from me as the soul conscious being, as unlike the form, as Brahman, as the subject, as the subject. Everything is non-separate from me. Everything is non-separate from the soul conscious being. Everything stands correlated to the conscious being identified with the body. Did you follow this difference? The universe stands correlated to, either it stands correlated to me as embodied, or it stands non-separate from me, the unembodied. It stands non-separate from me, the unembodied, or stands correlated to me, the embodied. इतना तो समझ लीजिए. Jagat stands correlated to the Jiva, or Jagat stands non-separate from Brahma. In this manner, swatantrena sthitesh chintayitumapi ashakyatvacha brahmani sarvavidam jagat kalpitameva. And therefore everything is kalpitam in Brahma. Avidyaya iti yuktam. And therefore it is logically tenable to say that everything is kalpitam in the truth. It is kalpitam in the truth, looks outside the truth. It is kalpitam in one's being, looks outside one's being. The dream is seen in oneself, but it looks outside. This is wonder of wonders. This is a wonder of wonders. It's almost like you stand in front of the mirror. This is also a wonder. You stand as though you have entered the mirror. It stands. You may explain it as reflection and all that, but how does it on the face of it, how does it look? As though you are standing face to face yourself in the mirror. It's also an appearance, a distortion. A thought appears in you and stands in front of you. Thought takes place in you, the unobjectifiable, but itself becomes objectified. Thought takes place in the unobjectified self. Thought takes place in the unobjectified, and what takes place in the unobjectified self becomes objectified. Therefore, the objectified is taking place within the unobjectifiable. The objectifiable takes place within the unobjectifiable. You can't say the objectifiable takes place within the objectifiable. I have given you the logic. The physical doesn't take place in the physical. The source of the physical is not physical, the non-physical. Because the entire physical is taken into account when I use the word physical. The entire physical is physical. And that is an appearance. Again, not in the physical. Then you are making a mistake. The entire physical is an appearance in the non-physical. In the same manner, the entire objectifiable universe is appearing in the unobjectifiable. And the unobjectifiable is only one's own being. There is no other unobjectifiable. One's existence is, I can't objectify my being. I can't, as a conscious being, I can't stand in front of me. Therefore, anything that is created in me stands objectified, looks outside me, but actually it is taking place within me. Like the dream takes place in our being, but looks outside our being. Maya. Therefore, if there is any one topic that every living being should get occupied with, is Maya really. What is this Maya? Only when man is in trouble he say, ये क्या माया है? एक दो बार जिंदगी में कहते. आजकल साली, because of the Modi, everybody say, क्या माया मांगे? क्या माया? ये क्या माया है? पूरा, just one individual पूरा देश को नचाया. One individual पूरा देश को नचाया. ये क्या माया है? Yeah, sometimes I feel, and my thinking, I still go by my original native thinking, my childhood thinking, that when something too much. When something too much happens, it will be cut to size by the divinity. I think so. And the divinity can function through you, through me, through a dog, through a snake, through a tree, anything. Because divinity is present everywhere. The divinity can function through any individual and cut the excess to size. The imbalance has to be rectified. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyam. It's divinity. Even this Baghdadi and all this, too much excess, too much of excess ultimately leads to its own curtailment. That is the law. Oh, that is natural, Swamiji. If anything becomes too excessive, then it has its fall also. I say that's not natural, that is the law. And that is God's law. That is God's law. There can be good and there can be some evil. There has to be a balance between good and evil, because both are there. Purely goodness is also not available. You can't have, everybody is pure, everybody is saintly, everybody. Even if you, like this, you can demonetize 1,000 times, but there will still be black money, understand? 1,000 times you may demonetize. Kuch nahi hoga. But this has to be done from time to time. You can't really, it's like in everyday bath you have to take. Once a day you have to take a bath, and every few years you have to correct the imbalance. That is done by the divinity. Now, I can't say is it right or wrong. I say these are the things which are planned by divinity. These things just happen. Things just happen. World wars just happen. If too much of evil is there and Bhagavan says it should be rewritten, too much of papa also leads to all these kinds. Too much of papa. And everybody, papa has to grow in life, I am telling you. You have no choice. Because when man doesn't take to himself, then he takes to the world. When he takes to the world, he has to commit sin. God, either God or mammon. You understand, Either God or mammon. Either you take to yourself, either you become a sage or you become a sinner. You take yourself you make yourself the topic, you become a sage. You ignore your existence, you ignore your own nature, you ignore yourself as your own fulfillment and then go after the objects for fulfillment. Then wealth becomes all important, then sin becomes inevitable. If I think that I must only money matters to me, nothing else, then I will commit sin. Whether your ancestors may be very dharmic, your ancestors may be very great vegetarians, but the present generation, they must have non-vegetarian for breakfast, non-vegetarian for lunch, non-vegetarian with tea, non-vegetarian for dinner. What is this? And they say, these are all things really, no conventions. These things are totally Purusha Tantra habits. And therefore, Sarvamidam Jagat Kalpitameva Avidyaya iti yuktam, and therefore, you can't avoid sin as long as you don't take to Vedanta. Once you take to Vedanta and you start deriving happiness from your own manana, looking at yourself. As you go on tapping your anandam from yourself, meaning in the very self-reflection you are serene. When a person doesn't take true self-reflection, then he has to depend upon wealth, and sin is inevitable. And also survival has a limit, but desire has no limit. Desires have no limit. Survival has a limit. You can always live a simple life. If man is interested only in he wants wealth only for survival, and when it comes to happiness, that is his own nature, then if survival alone is everybody's interest, then there will be no competition. Then everybody will be peaceful. But Swamiji, there will be no competition. Then how will we grow? I say growth is material growth, and it is exploiting nature becomes a need only when you depend too much on the objects. When you are wise, then you don't need wealth anyway. You live a simple life. Anyway, but my topic here is only simple. You can't avoid sin without taking to yourself Vedanta, Brahma Vidya. Even if you study Vedanta, unless you take interest in looking at yourself very closely, until you get one or two breakthroughs, unless you get a couple of breakthroughs, which convinces you, yes, it's right, you always look out for pleasure. Okay, tatha cha shrutihi. Thus, the entire prapancha is kalpita in the Brahman. Well, what do we mean by that? It is kalpita means it is perceived. I find myself perceiving embodiment. I find myself perceiving the universe in myself, but it looks as though outside myself, but it doesn't qualify my being, and it remains ununderstood by me. Like the water finds itself as a wave, but it has no idea that it is the water, not a form. The substance lives with the idea that I am a form, but it has no clue at all that it is the substance. The ocean looks at itself as a wave, but it has no clue at all that it is the ocean. Therefore, it is the very truth really finds itself as a form, and it has no clue that it is not the form. And it has to be taught by the Shastra, hey, you are not the form. You are distinct from the form. As non-form, you are unlimited. So the unlimited needs to be taught about its unlimited nature. How is that, Swami? Is it not true that Jiva has to be taught? Yes. Who is that Jiva, the unlimited, in the realm of avidya, in the realm of... But how can truth have ignorance? No, truth has no ignorance. Meaning, the ignorance doesn't qualify the truth. Yes. Ignorance doesn't qualify the truth. That means truth is never having ignorance. It is free from ignorance. Even when it has ignorance, it has no ignorance. It thinks I am the body, and yet it is not the body. The moment I say the felt ignorance doesn't qualify the feeler. The very feeling that I am ignorant doesn't qualify the being. Thinking doesn't qualify the being. In that sense, truth has no ignorance. In that sense. The sense in which I am saying that truth has no ignorance. Meaning what? The ignorance that is felt by the self doesn't qualify the self. The illiteracy felt by the illiterate doesn't qualify the person who is conscious. The illiteracy doesn't qualify the conscious being. Are you able to follow? In that sense, ignorance, the truth is free from ignorance. Who is a sansari? It is the asansari who looks like sansari. It is the asansari who looks like, who takes himself to be sansari. But even when he is thinking that I am a sansari, his thinking that he is a sansari doesn't qualify his nature. Baba. What an unfoldment, Ji. Therefore, man may cry and cry, but his crying doesn't qualify him. He suffers it. He says it is my suffering. That thinking that it is my suffering doesn't become a fact of his being. He even curses, what are you talking? You say it doesn't qualify you, etc. It is mine, I am suffering. I am suffering. How can you say it is not mine? Yes, this whole breast beat, chest beating, breast beating, crying, it doesn't qualify you. Your chest doesn't qualify you. Nor all that is there in your chest qualifies you. You better take this wrong thinking out of your chest. You understand now? Take this stupidity out of your chest. You may cry, but your crying doesn't qualify. Like the dream cry, you cry and cry in the dream, but it doesn't qualify your nature. If it qualifies you, then even after waking, it should always haunt you with you. Like wherever you take the fire, it is still hot. Or wherever you take the table, the table is white, let us say, it has its quality. And wherever you take the table, the white also is carried. You take the tree, the greenness also is carried. Wherever you carry the body, its features are also carried. But similarly, if crying is our quality, wherever we go, that crying should continue. But in sleep it doesn't. The dream crying doesn't exist in the waking crying doesn't exist in the dream, etc. That means this crying, the logic says also, the crying doesn't qualify our being. It's a great insight. It's a great insight into the nature of the truth. I have to only find out the nature of what are we by nature. By nature we are a being that is unqualified by all our imperfections and impurities and our tears. Fortunate, our tears don't wet our being. Tathacha Shruti. It's very beautiful Shruti is coming. I'm going to do it. See, in Chandogya Shruti, Uddalaka says, Aitadat Sadeva Samvedamagrasidekmeva Dvitiyam Tat Satyam Aitadatmvedagam Sarvam Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. This is the Vakya. This is Samaveda Vakya. Sadeva Samvedamagrasidekmeva Dvitiyam Aitadatmvedagam Sarvam Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. This is the Vakya. What does it mean? Aitadatma Vidagam Sarvam. All this universe has this Brahman as its soul. Baba. This universe has this Brahman, this truth as its soul, as its Swarupa. It's like saying, this wave has water as its soul, source, the truth. Aitadatma Vidagam Sarvam. Tat Satyam. That Swarup, that actuality behind the universe is the Satyam. The actuality about oneself is the Satyam. Tat Satyam. Sa Atma. And that is your actuality. The actuality of the universe is your actuality. Tatu Tvamasi. And that thou art. Meaning, you may think that you are the form, but your actuality is indeed the actuality of the whole universe. The self of you, your Swarupa is indeed the Swarupa of the whole Jagat. Your actuality is the actuality of the Jagat. I can only keep repeating this one because I like this actuality, the factuality. The factuality of you, your factuality is the factuality of the whole universe. Aidadatmvedagam sarvam tat satyam satma tattvam ashvethaketo iti chetana acetanatmakasya jagataha brahmaivatma. Therefore all the inert objects as well as the sentient individuals, all of them, their actuality is one Brahman. Tadeva cha paramartataha satyam, that is indeed, in fact, the satyam. If that is satyam, then all the inert objects are mithya. This embodiment also is mithya. My idea that I am the body also is mithya. My existence as an individual is mithya, but existence, my thinking that I am a limited individual is mithya. Existence is not mithya, but my erroneous thinking about my existence is mithya. Mithya Shabda should be always associated with thinking. It works. Mithya Jnanam. Yeah. There are no, see, a man says, it is a thing. Then Shastra says, all right, because you are calling it as a thing, a real thing, Shastra comes and says, no, it is a false thing. But actually, it is mithya jnanam. Mithya jnanam. Man has only satyam and mithya jnanam. We'll continue it later. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnascha Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadguru Bhagavan ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai. Thank you, Ji. Today also I am going somewhere. Yesterday I hope you forgave me. If you forgave